Geobyte.
Hello dear friends, welcome to the Geobyte. In this video, let us discuss the solutions for the previous ESET problems for the subject Heat Power Engineering. Dear friends, since all these problems I collected from the previous ESET exam papers, each and every problem is equally important, and hence you please watch till the last problem. If you find any doubt while you are listening or practicing, you please send your doubt to the Geobyte. Definitely within 24 hours I will answer all your questions. Look at the very first problem. Bunsen boiler requires, dear friends, Bunsen boiler is the supercritical boiler. Bunsen boiler is supercritical boiler. Therefore, Bunsen boiler is working without any drum. Bunsen boiler, remember, Bunsen boiler and Ramsay boiler. Bunsen boiler and Ramsay boiler, these two boilers are supercritical boilers. Supercritical boilers. These are operating around at a pressure of 250 bar. Here supercritical boilers means boiler which is operating above critical pressure. You know, critical pressure of water is 221 bar. If any boiler is operating above the critical pressure, such kind of boiler is called supercritical boiler. Supercritical boilers are generally constructed without any boiler drum. That is the reason Bunsen boiler is also called once through boiler. Bunsen boiler is also called once through boiler. Once through boiler or monotube boiler. Monotube boiler. Anyhow, the Bunsen boiler and Ramsay boilers do not require any drum. I hope you got my point. Let us take the second problem. Look at the second problem. In a D-level nozzle, D-level nozzle means the nozzle which is used for D-level turbine. The nozzle used for D-level turbine is always converging diverging nozzle. It means D-level nozzle is a converging diverging nozzle. Okay. Expanding superheated steam from 10 bar to 0.1 bar. The pressure at the throat will be dash in bar. You are asked to find the pressure at the throat of the D-level nozzle. As I said, D-level nozzle means converging diverging nozzle. It consists of three sections: converging portion, diverging portion. In between there is a small portion called throat. This is the converging portion. This is the throat, and this is the diverging portion. The steam is entering with a pressure P1. The throat pressure is P2 and exit pressure is P3. Exit pressure is P3. Remember the condition for maximum, maximum mass flow rate is, the P2 by P1 is equal to P1 equal to 2 by n plus 1 whole power n by n minus 1. where n equal to steam index. Here n equal to steam index. That steam index n equal to 1.3 for superheated steam. For superheated steam, n equal to 1.135 for dry saturated steam, and n is approximately 1.113 for wet steam. If I put these values in P2 by P1, you will get P2 by P1 is equal to 0.546 for superheated steam. 0.546 for superheated steam. Since the given problem is for superheated steam, look at the problem. In a D-level nozzle expanding superheated steam. For superheated steam, initial pressure P1 is given. The P1 is given 10 bar. And back pressure P3 is given. P3 equal to 0.1 bar. P3 equal to 0.1 bar. P3 is equal to 0.1 bar. You are asked to find the pressure at the throat. Critical pressure ratio P2 by P1 for superheated steam 0.546. Therefore, the pressure at the throat P2 equal to 0.546 into P1. Since P1 equal to 10 bar, it is 5.46 bar. So anyhow, the critical pressure means pressure of the steam at the throat for getting the maximum mass flow rate is 5.46 bar. Therefore, option A is absolutely correct. I hope you got my point. Let us take another problem. Look at the next problem. The drainage fraction at a certain pressure where H equal to 420 kilojoules per kg, L equal to 2300 kilojoules per kg, and capital H equal to 2260 kilojoules per kg is. You are asked to find the drainage fraction of the steam. Here his meaning might be capital H equal to total enthalpy of the wet steam. The total enthalpy of the wet steam is given 2260 kilojoules per kg, and L meaning might be HFG, latent heat 2300 kilojoules per kg, and H equal to small h equal to HF, that is sensible heat, equal to 420. These three are in kilojoules per kg. Okay, you are asked to find the drainage fraction. Dear friends, total enthalpy of the wet steam H wet equal to HF plus XHFG. From this, XHFG equal to H wet minus HF. Therefore, the drainage fraction X equal to H wet minus HF divided by HFG. You put all the values and simplify for getting the required answer. Here H wet is 2260 minus 420 divided by 2300. You simplify this value for getting around 0.28. So the drainage fraction X equal to 0.8. Look at the options. Look at the option B. Option B is absolutely correct. I hope you got my point. Let us take another problem. Look at the fourth problem. Maximum working pressure in a water tube boiler is, you can take up to 250 bar. Look at the options. 225 bar, 450 bar, 2250 bar, 22.5 bar. Among the given options, You can select the option A. Maximum expected pressure or maximum pressure that you can maintain in the water tube boiler is around 250 bar. 250 bar with the supercritical boiler. Anyhow, among the given options, option A is absolutely correct. Let us take another problem. Look at the fifth problem. With the increase in pressure, the temperature of steam formation will be. So you are asked to decide the temperature of the steam formation when the pressure is increasing. As you know, corresponding to P1 equal to 1 bar, the saturation temperature means at that temperature water starts evaporation is 100 degrees centigrade. Corresponding to critical pressure, that is 221 bar, the saturation temperature is that temperature I can call critical temperature. Saturation temperature at the critical point is 374.14 degrees centigrade. So corresponding to 1 bar pressure, the temperature for evaporation is 100 degrees centigrade. For the same water corresponding to 221 bar, the saturation temperature is 374.14 degrees centigrade. It means the saturation temperature is proportional to pressure. That means when the surface pressure increases, the temperature at which the water starts evaporation increases. Therefore, option A can be selected. Even if you look the TS diagram, temperature versus entropy diagram, so this may be the saturation curve. Corresponding to P1 pressure, this is the saturation temperature Tsat1. But when I increase the surface pressure from P1 to P2, the saturation temperature increases from Tsat1 to Tsat2. So from that also you can conclude that if the pressure increases, saturation temperature increases. I hope you got my point. Let us take another problem. Look at the sixth problem. Forced circulation of water takes place in the following type of boiler. Option A, Babcock and Wilcox boiler, no. Option B, Lancashire boiler, no. Cochrane boiler, no. Option D, Lamont boiler. Lamont boiler is the high pressure boiler where water is made to circulate by means of a pump under pressure. That's why the water is circulating forcibly in Lamont boiler. I hope you got my point. Let us take another problem. Look at the seventh problem. The efficiency of boiler is 80%. Here boiler efficiency given 0.8 and calorific value is 40,000 kilojoules per kg. Calorific value equal to 40,000 kilojoules per kg. Then energy in steam per kg of the fuel. That means here mass of the fuel equal to 1 kg. You are asked to find the total energy present in the steam. Energy present in the steam is how much? Now you know boiler efficiency equal to energy present in the steam divided by energy given to boiler. Or energy supplied to boiler. Here boiler efficiency is 0.8 equal to energy present in the steam, energy present in the steam divided by energy given to boiler is mass of the fuel multiplied by calorific value. It is equal to 0.8 energy present in the steam, energy present in the steam, energy present in the steam divided by mass of the fuel is 1 kg multiplied by calorific value equal to 40,000. You simplify this for getting energy present in the steam, energy present in the steam is equal to 0.8 multiplied by 40,000. You simplify this value for getting around 32,000 kilojoules. That is the total energy which is present in the steam, or total energy of the steam, 32,000 kilojoules. Look at the options. Look at the option B. Option B is absolutely correct. I hope you got my point. Let us take another problem. Look at the next problem. For discharge to be maximum, velocity of steam of the throat is equal to, the steam velocity at throat must be equal to sonic velocity. Then only you can expect the maximum mass flow rate or maximum discharge. It is like this. In case of converging diverging nozzle, the steam is entering at high pressure and low velocity. This is the state 1 where the pressure of the steam is P1. And the throat is, this is the throat. Throat pressure is PC. Of course, that PC equal to P2. Exit pressure is P3. Dear friends, by the time the pressure of the steam is dropping from P1 to critical pressure in the converging portion, the mass flow rate is becoming maximum. And one more important point is, by the time the pressure of the steam is dropping from P1 to critical pressure, velocity of the steam at state 2 is becoming sound velocity or sonic velocity. You know how to find the critical pressure. It is like this. Critical pressure by P1 equal to 2 by n plus 1 whole thing power n by n minus 1. From this you can decide the critical pressure. Critical pressure PC equal to P1 into 2 by n plus 1 whole thing power n by n minus 1, where n equal to steam index. Anyhow, by the time the pressure of the steam is dropping from P1 to critical pressure, the flow velocity is becoming sound velocity, then the mass flow rate will be maximum. Anyhow, the option C is absolutely correct. Let us take another problem. Look at the ninth problem. Rankine efficiency is defined as the ratio of, dear friends, Rankine efficiency equal to net work divided by heat supply to the system into 100. Here network equal to power given by the turbine minus power consumed by the pump. But remember, the pump work is very small compare it to turbine work. Therefore, we are ignoring the pump work for general engineering calculations. Once we ignore the pump work, the network I can consider as the network is very close to the turbine work only. Turbine work. Therefore, the Rankine efficiency equal to turbine work divided by the heat supplied. Heat supplied. Here turbine work equal to what? If I take the HS diagram, enthalpy versus entropy diagram, this is the saturated curve. The steam is entering at high pressure for the turbine and steam is leaving at low pressure from the turbine. In general, we are allowing the superheated steam to the turbine with a pressure P1 where the enthalpy is H1. The steam is theoretically expanding reversible adiabatically to a pressure P2 where the enthalpy is H2. Dear friends, remember, ideally work given by the turbine equal to H1 minus H2. Since the turbine work equal to H1 minus H2, that is the enthalpy drop in the turbine, that is the enthalpy drop in the steam while it is expanding in the turbine blades. That enthalpy drop in the turbine divided by heat supplied is giving the Rankine efficiency. Therefore, Rankine efficiency equal to Rankine efficiency equal to enthalpy drop in the turbine divided by heat supplied to power plant. Heat supplied to power plant. Heat supplied to power plant. That is the formula for deciding the Rankine cycle efficiency. Now look at the options. Options are Rankine efficiency is defined as the ratio of option A, total useful heat drop divided by adiabatic heat drop. No. Option B, enthalpy drop in the turbine divided by heat supplied. Absolutely correct. Enthalpy drop in the turbine is equal to turbine work. That turbine work divided by heat supplied. The turbine work divided by heat supplied is the Rankine cycle efficiency. I hope you got my point. Let us take another problem. Look at the 10th problem. An economizer dash the steam raising capacity. You know, economizer is used for increasing the temperature of the feed water by utilizing the heat energy present in the waste gases. Since the economizer is recovering the energy present in the waste gases, therefore the evaporation capacity definitely increases due to preheating the feed water before it is supplied to boiler drum. Once again, let me read the problem. An economizer dash the steam raising capacity of the boiler. Definitely it is increasing the steam raising capacity of the boiler. Option A is absolutely correct. Let me write the function of the economizer. The function of economizer is to preheat the feed water by utilizing the thermal energy present in the thermal energy present in the flue gases. That is the function of the economizer. Let's take the next problem. Look at the 11th problem. In impulse turbine, when steam flows through the moving blades. Dear friends, the impulse turbine blades are arranged such that the pressure of the steam remains constant in the blades. Pressure of the steam remains constant, but velocity of the steam decreases. While the steam is expanding over the turbine blades, the steam is losing the kinetic energy. The steam is losing the kinetic energy means velocity of the steam decreases. That loss of kinetic energy is converted to mechanical energy. Therefore, velocity of the steam decreases. Look at the options. Option A, velocity increases. No. Option B, velocity decreases. Absolutely correct. By the time the steam is expanding over the impulse turbine blades, velocity of the steam decreases. That drop of velocity is an indication of drop of kinetic energy. That drop of kinetic energy is converted to mechanical energy or rotational energy. I hope you got my point. Let us take next problem. Look at the 12th problem. The blade shape in impulse turbine is. You are asked to find the blade shape for the impulse turbine. Impulse turbine blade shape is like this. This is the 1 minute. Let me draw it clearly. This is the geometric shape of the blade for impulse turbine. That shape I can say the profile type. The thickness of the blade is more at the center. So this is the geometric shape of the blade for the impulse type turbine. The steam is entering somewhere here and is moving, changing the direction like this. That is how the steam is moving. This is the steam direction. Steam in and steam out. The thickness of the blade is more at the center. This kind of geometric shape is called profile type blade. Profile type blade. Whereas for reaction turbine, the geometric shape of the blade is aerofoil type. Aerofoil type blade may be like this. The geometric shape of the reaction turbine blade is like this. This is geometric shape of the reaction type blade. This blade shape is called aerofoil. Aerofoil type blade is used for reaction turbine. Whereas profile blade is selected for profile type blade is selected for the impulse turbine like D level turbine. Look at the first option. The very first option itself is absolutely correct. I hope you got my point. Let us take another problem. Look at the 13th problem. The pressure compounded impulse turbine, the ratio of blade speed to steam velocity. The pressure compounded impulse turbine, compounded impulse turbine is called RATU turbine. Whereas velocity compounded impulse turbine, velocity compounded impulse turbine is called Curtis turbine. Curtis turbine. Here it is Ratu turbine, Curtis turbine. Remember, ratio between the blade speed and steam velocity remains constant for the Ratu turbine. For the Ratu turbine, the blade speed divided by steam speed remains constant, but in case of Curtis turbine, the blade speed divided by steam velocity is not constant, for all stages, is not constant for all stages. But irrespective of the number of stages, in case of pressure compounded steam turbine, ratio between the blade speed and steam velocity remains constant. Once again, let me read the problem. The pressure compounded impulse turbine, the ratio of blade speed to steam velocity remains constant. Therefore, option C is absolutely correct. I hope you got my point. Let us take another problem. Look at the 14th problem. Thermal efficiency in a steam boiler will be the range of, remember, for a steam boiler, the thermal efficiency of the steam boiler or steam generator varies from 80 to 90%. That too, boilers are two types: fire tube boilers and the water tube boilers. The fire tube boiler thermal efficiency is less than thermal efficiency of water tube boiler is less than thermal efficiency of supercritical boilers. Supercritical boiler like Benson boiler. Anyhow, among the fire tube boiler, water tube boiler and supercritical boiler, of course, the Benson boiler is also water tube boiler, but it is operated above the critical pressure of water. Therefore, specifically, the Benson boiler is called as supercritical boiler. Anyhow, thermal efficiency of the supercritical boiler is very high compared to the thermal efficiency of the water tube boiler, and the thermal efficiency of the fire tube boiler is very less compared to thermal efficiency of the water tube boiler or supercritical boiler. Anyhow, look at the option A. Option A itself is absolutely correct. I hope you got my point. Let us take the last problem. Look at the last problem. Effect of friction in steam nozzle is, it is like this. If I take the temperature versus entropy diagram, this is the saturation dome. The steam may be entering to the nozzle under high pressure with a pressure P1. The steam is leaving from the nozzle with a pressure P2. Let it be. Generally, superheated steam is allowed for the nozzle. This is the state 1. 1 to 2 is the reversible adiabatic process. 1 to 2 is the reversible adiabatic process. Reversible adiabatic process. But once we consider the effect of friction, the effect of friction, the curve is deviated like this. Once we consider the effect of friction, the curve is deviating like this. 2 dash. 1 to 2 dash is the irreversible adiabatic compression. Irreversible adiabatic expansion process. 1 minute. Irreversible adiabatic expansion. Irreversible adiabatic process. Remember the enthalpy drop. That enthalpy drop can be identified with HS diagram. The enthalpy drop can be identified with HS diagram. Enthalpy versus entropy. This is the saturation dome. The steam is entering to the nozzle at high pressure P1, leaving at low pressure P2 like this. This may be the initial state. The isentropic expansion or reversible adiabatic expansion is following the 1 to 2. For that reversible adiabatic process, enthalpy is dropping from H1 to H2. So for the reversible adiabatic process, enthalpy drop equal to H1 minus H2. But once we consider the irreversible effects, the curve is deviating like this. The curve is deviated to 2 dash. Then actual enthalpy drop is what? The actual enthalpy is dropping from H1 to H2 dash. So because of the irreversibility, the enthalpy drop in the actual process or irreversible process is equal to H1 minus H2 dash. Ideal enthalpy drop is H1 minus H2. Actual enthalpy drop is H1 minus H2 dash. That means here the actual enthalpy drop is less than the ideal enthalpy drop. Therefore, the ideal velocity V2 is equal to 44.72 into dH, whereas actual velocity V2 dash, because of the irreversibility, 44.72 into root under dH dash. Since dH dash, actual enthalpy drop is less than dH dash is less than ideal enthalpy drop, the actual velocity is less than the ideal velocity. So because of the irreversibility, the velocity decreases. Now come to the dryness fraction. As you know, the dryness fraction values are projecting from the critical point. This is the critical point along the saturated curve. Dryness fraction x equal to 1. The dryness fraction through state 2 dash is like this. This is the dryness fraction because of the irreversible process, x2 dash. If it is ideally expanding, the dryness fraction is x2. Since the dryness fraction value is increasing towards the saturated curve, this is the saturated vapor curve. Since the dryness fraction value is increasing towards the saturated vapor curve, you can conclude that x2 dash, dryness fraction line which is passing through 2 dash, is more than x2. So from this, the conclusion is, because of the irreversibility, velocity decreases, dryness fraction increases. Velocity decreases, dryness fraction increases. Now let us go for the options. Option A. So effect of friction, once again let me read the problem. Effect of friction in steam nozzle is to, option A, increase velocity. No, velocity never be increased, velocity decreases. Look at the B, increase velocity. No, Option C, decrease velocity and increase dryness fraction. Absolutely correct. Because of the irreversibility, the velocity decreases but dryness fraction increases. So look at the option C. Velocity decrease in velocity and increase in dryness fraction. Therefore, option C is absolutely correct. Option C is absolutely correct. I hope all of you understood all these problems very clearly. My dear friends, since all these problems are very important, you practice once again all these problems. In general, the questions are repeating in the ESET examinations. While you are practicing, if you have any doubt, you please don't forget to send your doubt to the GeoByte. Definitely, I will answer all your questions. And my request is you please subscribe our channel called GeoByte. Thank you. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
GeoByte.